Welcome to Showcase Broadcast Studio, to our audience, subscribers, and members on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and any other streaming services that we're on. Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about inviting Dr. Pat into studio today. A lot of just so many questions I have for you, Dr. Pat, so thank you for joining. With 2021, and we're now halfway through April of 2021, and we've gone through the remote learning, the virtual working, and all that. Health and mental health and physical health is becoming a challenge, and I'm seeing stories and reading about that, which is why I asked Dr. Pat to come into studio and share with us her thoughts, ideas, philosophy, everything about being healthier. So, Dr. Pat, thank you. I know you are, and I jotted this down, certified functional medicine practitioner, a coach, a chiropractor, speaker, and author of the book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? Which, again, thank you for sharing your digital copy of it. I did go through it, and we can talk about it.
Right.
Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. Did you say acupuncture?
I did not.
Yeah, I'm an acupuncture physician also, but I love being here, and thank you so much for the invite. Our pre-talks before we got to this point have been really wonderful, and I really like sharing the time and space with you and investing, and helping you and your listeners become, have a much better life because of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what I really appreciated is the number of people that you've helped with physical pain and not just living with it, which for me personally, I've been doing. I have a back problem that I've been living with, and I've gone to physical therapy, and it comes and it goes. So I appreciate that you've helped individuals, and any advice, guidance, any thoughts, insight, it's going to be very welcome today. So I guess just to get started with a couple of questions, what motivates you as a doctor, as a business person? What motivates you?
Well, a lot of things motivate me, but one of my key things is the thing that motivates me. And I did the survey with the Why Institute one time, and this guy goes, "Oh my God, your book's all about your why. How wonderful is that?" And so I said to him, I go, "What do you mean?" And because, figuring out, a lot of people for figuring out their why it's just kind of a struggle. And so, because you want it more definitive, you want it like in black and white. So, what I discovered, and what's really quite true, is I wake up every day. What motivates me, I wake up every day, thinking about how I can solve problems, how I can make it simpler, how I can take challenges and make them into simple solutions, faster, better, that get people unstuck so they can move forward with tangible results. So, that phrase, like, when you have 1,000 dreams, you have, how's that goes? Like when you have 1,000 dreams, when you have your health, you have those 1,000 dreams is what I'm going to make a synopsis of that. But when you don't have your health, you only have one, and you're always focusing on that. You're being a burden to yourself. You're being a burden to other people. You're trying to, cloister yourself because you think it's only happening to you, and that's not true.
It's true. That's very true. But sometimes you feel like you're in that silo, and you feel like you're alone in that. Who do you work with? Who do you serve? Who do you support and help?
Well, who I support and I help busy professionals and other influencers be stronger, make better decisions, find balance in their days and their lives with superior nutrition and related wellness initiatives.
Got it.
I love puzzles. I like putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
And are we all puzzles?
Well, most puzzles.
So when it comes to busy professionals and helping them, really helping them stay healthy, from a mental standpoint and a physical standpoint, let's talk about the here and the now. What advice, what guidance, and maybe we're jumping ahead, but how do you keep people thinking about that? I mean, it's become almost draining being stuck at home, and I know a lot of people are starting to look back into the office, but what kind of things do you discuss and help people with?
Well, one thing is that people, when they're at home, if they're, women, men, they don't have boundaries. I was on a call with an attorney and on a board that I sit, and his girlfriend came in and just said, "You got to take the cats or the dogs to the vet," and right in the middle of our meeting. So there isn't that, that those boundaries at home kind of don't exactly sit, they don't sit well with other members in the family because they think, that you're there and you're talking. I have numerous friends of mine, because I've worked from home and from, virtually before COVID, that they would call me up at 10 o'clock in the morning thinking I could talk. And I'm going, no, I'm in the middle of something, I'm on a call with a client, or they're like, well, can you call me when you're done? So I had to really retrain my friends, when I started working, at home, to how to create those boundaries. It's just like how to take those blocks in your calendar and that they're non-negotiable. So that means like turning your cell phone off, or unless it's like an emergency that you need to like deal with. And it's like your mother, your father, because we all have all these people in our lives that take up a lot of space with us, and especially women, because women will do, like, they put themselves last all the time. And a lot of times by doing that, because we're not taking care of ourselves and not involving ourselves in self-care, in creating those boundaries, you're not leading by example. And, right. You're teaching your children like, oh, you can come and interrupt me anytime. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I hung up on girlfriends of mine when their kids were like, 10, 11, when they should know better, and just say, hey, why don't you go talk to your son, or daughter, and then you call me back when you're done. And they're going, no. I go, no, it's an interruption, and it's, and like when I, it just, that's one of my pet peeves for that, even with anybody, no matter, when someone's talking, interrupting them for no apparent reason. And so they're, teaching people about those boundaries and keeping them interested. When you're talking about diet and everything else like that, people feel saturated because they see it all the time on TV and they feel like they've heard it all. But in reality, nobody's ever taught them how to eat. No one's ever taught them how to shop. No one's ever taught them how to put foods together so that your body can utilize them, so they can repair, revitalize, and move you forward in the future so you can think better, feel better, and move better. Nobody ever taught that in the American society. So you go into a grocery store and you're looking like, why would I ever buy organic broccoli when there's this other broccoli? They look like twins, and they're from a different mother and a different father. They're like different cousins. But there's more nutrients in the organic broccoli, as opposed to coming from a GMO seed. So when I'm talking to busy professionals, I mean, people who can afford it, it's just like, have someone make your food for you, have somebody like, let's decide what foods you like and what's the best way to put them together. And then you can, that's like one thing off your plate. Because if you're a busy professional, you've got, work going on and the such, and the funny thing, I was doing some market research about 3 weeks ago, and I was talking to an woman who was a VP in an insurance company. And she told me, because she was a single mom at the time, and her husband and her were still very good friends, but she couldn't rely on him to make dinner, or to think dinner out. So she said around 2:45 every day, she had an alert that came up to say, what's for dinner? Because she was so concerned about making sure her kids had something nutritious and that she made it as a mom. Her second thing, she said, I bet men never think about that at 2:45 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And every man I've asked since then all said no. I mean, you don't think about that at 2:45, right?
I'll be honest, at 2:45 or 3 o'clock, I'm back in the kitchen grabbing a snack.
Yeah,
So,
so it's a snack time for you because that
yes,
glucose cycle goes every 4 hours, like 10, 2, 4, like every 2 hours, because you eat at 12 o'clock normally. That's what the norm is.
right.
So it's like keeping your blood, sugar levels up. But, you're not thinking about what you're going to make your kids for dinner at 2:45, 3 o'clock. But women who have kids and they're trying to juggle working, they're being overwhelmed. Maybe they're a little bit overweight, maybe they're, having, they're like not as fit as they would like to be. And they are, waking up foggy in the morning. Those people struggle all day long with their work because, and getting the right nutrition that they need to have. And so, because they're not vibrant, they're not energized, and they're not on fire. And so, at the end of the day, they're depleted. And when they get home, they're thinking like, oh, when I get home tonight, I'm going to take a bubble bath. Yeah. And they don't, because they get home, they got kids to do, husbands to do, they have, then they got to clean the kitchen, and like tidy things up. And all of a sudden it's 9:30 and laying flat sounds like a lot better and feels like a better idea than sitting in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And so like even a warm bath for anybody would be like a health hack to be able to go to sleep easier. But it's just like, it just seems like it's up here. I can see it, but I can't get to it. And so, I help female executives, especially in the busy professionals, how to put those pieces of the puzzle together so it's a non-event.
So is it that people don't allocate time as a reward to what they want? Like when we're talking about the bath or relaxing, is it they don't feel that is it that they just don't allocate it and they don't feel like they deserve it? Why? Like why wouldn't you say, I worked all day, I did all this, men, women, doesn't matter, but shouldn't you reward yourself? And like, doesn't that help?
No, that's great thinking from the male perspective. But for the female perspective, they have in-laws, they have parents, they have kids, they have cats, they have dogs, and they have best friends. And women work better in community, and they work better in within that community. Because I always say that when a woman heals herself, she heals those behind her, those in front of her, and those around her, and that community spreads to other communities. And because we work better that way, we just are, because we're multidimensional. Not that you're not, but we think, we have like a lot of things going on in our head at the same time, because we have to stack our time out during the daytime. That same VP told me that, she took any time that she had the opportunity, because I was living on Cape Cod at one point in time, so I know where she lives, that if she could get and walk towards the beach or take a walk towards the beach, that would give her downtime for herself. People don't have that downtime anymore. They're at home. They go out of their doors of your room and you're like right in the middle of the fire again. You don't have that, like, I got to go lay down. So, I recommend people, if they can take that 20, 30, no longer than 30-minute break, close their eyes, listen to binaural beats, listen to white noise, and just lay there and just be in that moment. They wake up and it's almost like they had a night's sleep. They're more energized, their brain sharper, they can do more, they can jockey their, the rest of their afternoon if they have to. But naps are incredibly wonderful, and that 20, 30-minute quote unquote power nap is important. You never want to get past the 30 minutes, because then you start getting in the third and fourth stage of sleep, which is where your deep sleep is. So that's when people wake up in their deep sleep, that's when they're waking up and they don't know where they're at. It's, and they're waking up really groggy and really foggy in their head. And a lot of people can't, they get there. It's only a 110 minute cycle that stuff happens. So when you get to that 110 minutes, then you get into the REM portion of it. And then that's when you definitely don't want to get woken up. That's when you swing at somebody and, your body's almost paralyzed. It refuses to let your body move, because if you didn't, you would act out your dreams, and that's where people get punched in the middle of the night, and think, because they're not exactly in REM, when stuff like that happens. And so, you've got to be respectful of that. But during the daytime, you eat a meal, take, like 30 minutes and just like close your eyes after it, it pays to do it because you're more energized, you're clearer thought, you have clarity, you have better focus, and you have better bodily functions doing that.
Okay, so two things. First of all, for our audience, if you do have questions, comments, I've gotten a couple of just comments saying hi. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. Also, I love what you said about naps. I love naps. I love naps.
Me too.
It's funny because there are some people that are just like, naps are ridiculous. You don't need them. I disagree. I see nothing wrong with laying down for, like you said, 20 minutes, half hour. I didn't know there was any science behind it. I just kind of, on a Saturday or Sunday, I'm doing something, I'm like, need to take a break, gonna take a nap, and kind of restart my day. It's like I have a second day all in one. It's great.
That's what it does for you. It's great, and then, for the sleep portion of that, at night, that's, that third and fourth stage is so important because that's where your body revitalizes, the brain detoxes then, it restores function. It's kind of like does this like internal cleanse and busts itself up. And so, because it's going to, like, the next day that you're on, you want to hit the ground running. You should be able to hit the ground running every day when you wake up and not drag your butt out of bed or thinking like, oh, I need my coffee first. If you're starting to say that you need your coffee first, then you have to look at adrenal stress. I mean, you have to look at like how, what's going on. So in this whole time span of COVID and where everyone's working out of their house, and it's easy to get, caught in the project. I do it myself. All of a sudden I'm going, oh my God, I've been sitting at my computer for 4 hours and my dog's looking at me thinking, take me outside now, or it's going to be a good experience. And so like, I actually have it, like scheduled in. When my schedule, I go, okay, Jack, when do I have to take you outside? So it's important to like honor our cycles and honor what our work productivity cycles are. They're usually only 2 hours, and then you need that break anyway.
Right.
Go out, hug a tree, pick a rock up, go, hug your wife and say, okay, see you later. Got to go back to work, but being in such enclosed confines with people, you have to be able to still have those boundaries that, when I'm working, I'm working. You wouldn't interrupt me at work, would you? You wouldn't just walk into my office,
right.
And if you saw I was doing something, you wouldn't just start talking.
True.
Hopefully. But
it's almost like you lose that concept of division when you're working from home, and it's a training exercise. I have 3 kids, one's in college, 2 are here, and there are times when this started happening where we were completely remote, and I usually travel, but I haven't. My kids, and it's nothing against them, they just didn't recognize that during the day when I'm in the office and I'm on the phone, you can't just come in and start talking. So it's a training for everybody. I get that.
Right. Yeah, it's just like, and we have to, what people are really poor at doing, and it's not a negative, it's just that, as a parent, when your kid wants something from you, and you're thinking like, for women more so, because I hear this all the time for women, when your kid wants something from them, it's like, like men can kind of like shuffle it off a little bit, and to like, can I talk to you, sweetheart, at 4 o'clock? Going, all right, Dad, and, but a mother wants to just put whatever their kid wants, they want to put down whatever they're doing and they want to be present.
Yeah.
And if you have a really bad day, and having that, being able to transition from work to being home, even if you're in your home, is really important, because when you're talking to your kids, you want to be like very encompassing and very engaging. Like, how was your day? Tell me what you did. What was your virtual class like today? How many people were there? And asking questions and engaging them in that really, important conversation, because that helps keep mental health. I mean, that helps, that socialization is really important. And the things that are lacking, like people don't get those hugs. I mean, they get hugs from their family,
Right.
And maybe their friends, when they see them that they play with all the time, or adults when they play with their friends all the time, they're, and they go out or they have, lunch, and but people are, women have to have better boundaries. There's a reason in the airline industry why you put your mask on first before you put your kids. You've got to do self-care. It's so important to me, and I feel it's so important to busy professionals I spoke with, that, that's a main component that can help, like reposition how you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts, if you look at the 3 reasons why people get sick, which are, you have a subluxation. Subluxation creates inflammation. The base common denominator between inflammation and all chronic illnesses and disease is inflammation. They said that in 2004. They had a big article on Time magazine in February. I think it was February 23rd or something like that. It says they found a common link. Surprisingly, it's been for a long time. That's still there. A lot of people have inflammation brewing. They have a soup in their body that's brewing. They don't know that they're sick. So when we talk about my book a little bit more, and the title is Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? People go like, well, I don't feel sick, because they don't identify. They think sick is throwing up in the toilet. And, being fat, you can be thin, but you can have internal, VAT fat, that's visceral fat around your organs. That's deadly. And then you can be tired. Everyone knows if they're tired or not, but some people go like, you keep on burning that candle at both ends. Something eventually at some point in time has got to give. And the sick part is, you don't know if you're sick, but you can always find out where your weakest link is, so you know where to fortify, so you don't have to wait for a crisis to happen in order for you to stay healthy and actually be healthy. That's why this, I always say, get the hard copy of this book and, keep it on your shelf, because when you have the digital version, then what happens is it's like in Kindle. I have like 5 books in Kindle going right now, and on Audible, I've got 5 books. So it depends on what book do I want to listen to. And as such, but if it's in front of you, then you can't negate it. 3 months later, you just put it on your calendar. I'm going to repeat the questionnaire. That is a system survey questionnaire that shows how a Swiss watch really works, because all the components of a Swiss watch are tied into each other. Our body is exactly the same way. There's not one organ in there that's not supposed to be there, and it's there for a reason. Yeah. So it's bigger than that. Just remember, when you don't feel like doing self-care, like there's a reason. But think about that yellow mask, put it on your refrigerator. So it'll remind you.
That's a very good point. So let's talk about your book, and thank you again for sending me the digital copy. I did go through it, and it was interesting because I spent time thinking about it as I'm going through the survey. It does take time, absolutely no question about it, if you're going to be serious about it. Would you recommend taking this and sharing this with your physician? Is this something that you say, here's what some indicators that I'm seeing, or is it you take the notes and you bring that to your physician? I found a couple of things interesting that I never realized. That could be, that not concerns, but that I probably will bring up to my doctor, just to make sure, like you said, you bring it up.
Well, you can ask me first before you bring it up to your doctor, and then I can tell you how to posture that question to him so that you get to have the answers. So the idea is, in the book, there's everybody has 11 organ systems. And so your organ systems, what you're looking at, one piece of the puzzle doesn't stand by itself. You need to know the whole picture. So you need to take a look at the whole picture. So when you have a high priority, which is your weakest link, then you've got to say, like, okay, so what else is going good for me? I've got to have something in here that's like on my side, right? Because you want to see where the balance is. So it's just like, but that high priority are things that, might be lurking below the surface that can affect your immune system ultimately. So you can have a low immune score and have high priorities. An immune score in your body's immune system is still going, yes, baby. But what's happening is, like, it keeps on being chipped away. So eventually one day you wake up and you have something bigger going on and you're now in crisis. So what you do is that, when, it depends upon what kind of doctor you're presenting this to, because this is a functional medicine model. of a system survey. And it's, like when people have always said to me, my doctors never asked me those questions, but no doctor can say that these questions don't relate to that organ system. And so, and if you look in the endorsements, you can see that, repetitiously, indicated in that area. So if you know where your weakest link is, you can go like, okay, and I always look at, I had somebody who answered all those questions. And I said to them, and I knew that they had a really bad case of Lyme's. They have an issue with their immune system. And I said to them, well, I said, you were like in a hurry when you did the questionnaire? And they went, I didn't, they were kind of him and hawing. And I said, why do you say that? And I said, well, because I've never met anybody who has a weak immune system doesn't have a gut issue. I've never met anybody who has allergies doesn't have a gut issue. So people think because they have symptoms that now become a new normal, that is, that they're no longer, those are exempt. That's normal. People think by taking medications because their blood pressure down, that they're healthy, but it doesn't mean that they're healthy. It just means that their blood pressure is down and it's being driven down by pharmaceutical med.
Right.
So, and the thing is, you're not going to where the root problem is. Because if you don't go into where the root problem is, then you can't correct it. You just keep on putting a Band-Aid on, the same thing over and over again. You're expecting that wound to heal, and it's not going to heal. You've got to take a look at the bigger picture. You've got to take a look at diet and nutrition, which are two different things, but under the same umbrella. Because you can have, a stellar diet, what seems to be a stellar diet, and not get the nutrients that you need. So then you have to have proper exercise, proper sleep. A positive mental attitude plays a key factor in, whether people get healthy and stay healthy, or whether they have something chiseling at their health. There was a book called that I made my mother read one time, and she said she laughed through the whole thing. And so the funny part about the laughing through the whole thing was that this guy was given a really bad diagnosis, like he had cancer or something, who wrote this book. I can't think of the name of it right now, but he bought all the Candid Camera, YouTubes, and he watched them consecutively all the time. And when he went back, there was not a trace of his disease in him, but the thought of mind over matter, your mind is very, very powerful. You have 3 brains, so the first brain is your lizard brain that always is trying to derail you from being successful, whatever it is, your relationship, your work, your food that you're eating. They're going, yeah, but you can just have that little bit of that ice cream. Go ahead, you can have that ice cream. And so you got to learn how to knock that guy off your shoulder. And, and then you have.
What's the first one called?
Lizard.
Okay, I'm with you.
I call it the lizard brain. And the second one is, reactionary and, relational. So when you do something that's good for you, you should find, this is an NLP thing, you can tap yourself on the shoulder, and just God, I did that good. Actually pat yourself on the back or someplace. Good going. And because what it does is it sinks that reaction into the good part of it. And when you think the actual good part of it, it quells the lizard brain from derailing you. Mm-hmm. And so the lizard brain's active all the time because the idea of it is so that it keeps you from the saber-toothed tiger. It helps you. That's how you replicate, because that's what the lizard brain does. That's the 5 F's. Food. Fornication. And all those things that are in that realm. So. Yeah. When you do a positive mental attitude check and you're saying and looking at positive things, then what happens is it makes the lizard brain go, sayonara, see you later. And if you do them before you wake, just when you wake up in the morning and just before you go to sleep, that's when the lizard brain is tired. So it feeds the reactionary and the relational brain a lot better, so that you can start relating and going into those things.
It's really interesting. So you're saying before you go to sleep, you go through some rewards that you've accomplished, some activities that you did to get that lizard brain away from you and get those negative thoughts, or those those.
Yeah, negative thoughts. They're there too. That lizard brain going like, you can't do that. Like what makes you think you deserve that? Your lizard brain's the one that's telling like you're not worthy.
Right.
And so it's like, oh yeah, I remember, your father said, when you were like 5 years old, so you have these things that are going on in your head, and all those thoughts, if you don't have a handle on your thoughts, can undo things that you do to eat clean, get toxins out of your house, like look at your, what you're cleaning your house with. And so it can undo, eating really super well, having a really clean house, and then having, the subluxation chiropractic, biomechanic posture portion of it, which is the fifth element of that. You have to have good structure or you're not going to have good function. And you can see that how people, when they're walking down the street, when they're starting to do that little bit of that forward head tilt, which adds about anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds at each degree that you're going to your spine, and you're having, then your flexors are getting stronger because your extensors are not holding you up. So I always people, when they train, make sure that your trainer is really focusing on your extensors so that you have good posture. And you should have someone take a picture of you forward, sideways, and backways to see what your posture is. But if you don't have good structure, you can't have good function. It ultimately it will be a negative for you, for your health, if you don't pay attention to that.
There's so many different things that I want to talk about. And I know we're just past the half hour. I think we need to have a follow-up conversation because there's a lot of information. And I know for me personally, and I don't think I'm any different than anybody else, these type of hurdles is what I like to refer to them as. I want them out of my life. And I think everybody, especially when you're working from home, you're cooped up and not going to the office, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so, Dr. Pat, what you're talking about in terms of helping to get those things out and shopping the right way, I never even thought about that. I would never even thought. I just go and I have a list and I know what I want and what I don't want. And you're right. I look at broccoli or I look at lettuce. I'm like, organic or not organic? Well, I don't know the difference. I'm just going to grab whatever. I don't taste the difference. I don't feel any different directly from it. But like you said, you may not feel that an immediate impact from shopping once like that, but it's a process and it's a habit that you go through.
Yeah, you start small. I mean, if you overwhelm yourself, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So in my course that, I did an online course, I taught it live, and I'm going to repeat that online course. I don't have a date for that to happen yet. But I also do that one-on-one with people. But in a Stronger Than Medicine course, I had a guy, email me, and he said, every time I go shopping now, when I'm passing the lemons, and he goes, I hear your voice going, buy me, buy 3. And I just laughed because he goes, I just never, I never equated, like why, I bought food because I thought all food that we're eating was supposed to be good, but it's not, doesn't,
right.
An egg isn't an egg. I mean, people go spend $7, $6 on a Starbucks coffee that has chemicals sprayed in it, as opposed to buying $6, worth of eggs. And you're going to get a lot more out of those eggs than you are going to get out of that coffee. And coffee's not bad. I mean, Sophia Loren always says she has one poison a day, and her poison a day is her, espresso. And the coffee is not bad for you. It's just that you can't, you have to where's my coffee sourced from? Because coffee, big problem with coffee coming into the United States is that if it's loose beans, they spray pesticides and insecticides on to get rid of anything that's on there. Not that, boiling it or grinding it up and then boiling up would do that also. But, they do that. And I feel like a lot of people who have those issues with caffeine, supposedly, the real issue is mold. And it's because those same beans, the way that they're stored, they also have an issue with mold and levels of mold in it. So you should always check your coffee. Look for coffee that has been checked for mold and has passed that level of inspection.
How do we know that?
You can, there's different coffees. If you look, if you start just with, if you want to have a little bit of education about it, look up David Asprey's Bulletproof Coffee, and just read on his blog what he talks about with that. But, mold's in a lot of things. Like you have to, and how things are stored, and like, we see mold in our refrigerator, but, if you look at like vegetables and apples and things like that in the fall time that are stored in bins for months. It's just like,
Yeah.
and so it's like, that's why it's so important to wash your fruit thoroughly and wash your vegetables thoroughly before you eat them. But the mold in the coffee, because I'll tell you, nothing personal against Starbucks, but I stopped going to Starbucks because when I went in there, I one day had a coffee like I always ordered. I had a cafe Americano made from espresso beans. And an hour later, I was out of my body. And I went, wow, I've never had that experience there. So I made an inquiry and did some research, and they changed their beans. They paid where they sourced their beans. So then I went, I went, okay. So then I got decaf, same thing. And so when I researched it out, I was thinking like, okay, so what's the other thing? This is how I ended up started drinking Bulletproof coffee. And I don't have Bulletproof coffee, their ingredient. I look for places that sell coffee that is, that has been tested for mold, and they can guarantee that it isn't in there because you're drinking it. And then your body.
If I buy coffee, and I appreciate you bringing this up. If I buy coffee from the store, beans, do I look on the label, or is it I go to the blog and I find out?
Go to the blog and find out.
Okay, it's called, the blog is.
Yeah, you're not gonna. It's not gonna be labeled on, and whatever you're being. So things that are canned out of the United States are not sprayed. So, and so like if you get, when I buy, like Illy coffee, for instance, or Lavazza coffee, or coffee that comes from out of the United States that's in a can, those cans are not, they are not sprayed when they come in the United States. That's my understanding.
Okay. Wow.
So I don't have an issue. I can drink coffee. I was talking to an Italian guy the other day. I can drink coffee, in the morning. I can have a cup of coffee, and I don't use milk in it anymore. I use, nut kind of milk, but nuts that I like. Or else I drink it black. When I drink an espresso, I have just the espresso. I have they call it Cafe Longos. It's an espresso shot that has probably another whole shot, like an ounce of water with it, to dilute it. So, but I don't have that issue, and I can go to sleep. I can have coffee if I haven't, like my meal at night. I always used to, when I was in Italy, I always used to like having that espresso at the end of my meal. I never stayed up. I always went to sleep. And I don't have that. I don't have any sleep problems because of that. So I eliminated crappy coffee out of my diet.
Yeah. It's a good idea. I mean, there's a lot of junk that we eat. I speaking for myself, there's a lot of junk that I eat that I could definitely clear out of my cabinets and not eat anore. But
well, you can always hire me to come to Illinois, and I'll do it for you. I've done that with people before, and like, they're attached. I don't have anything here that I could use as a demonstration, but when I'm going through, and I said, did you read the label on this? I went like, no, Dr. Pat, but I like that so much.
Exactly.
Said, you have been paying me a lot of money, to help you get healthier. And, and I had a person who went through this whole program with me, and her friend of hers was taking her for her birthday. She got an extra ticket. She won a trip for two to Costa Rica, and invited her to go for her birthday. I went like, how sweet is that? And she goes, Dr. Pat, can I have a drink when I'm there? I said, do you think if you have one drink, you're going to have another drink? And she said, probably. And I said,
it doesn't stop.
I said, so I go, how far do you think you've come from when we first started working with you? She goes, I haven't felt this good. She was 50. I haven't felt this good since I was 30 years old.
Oh.
And I said to her, well, I said, so you're going to go to Costa Rica for 7 or 8 days and blow it? And I said, and all that, and you're going to have to start all over again. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
And so she said, I said, so do what you want to do. And I said, but this could, I go, just be mindful of, your body's a sanctuary. You can't, can you have a drink every once in a while? Maybe, but you're not at that point where you can start introducing something back in and realize that was a bad mistake and correct it at the next meal. And I said, so we haven't got to that point because, people expect to have these miracles in a month or 2 months.
Of course.
And the thing is that it's taken years to get your gut in such bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
You expect it heals, one of the fastest organs to heal very quickly. But it takes, there's so much information. You can't do that kind of information and not feel overwhelmed and like, oh my God, I'm, like, I can't do this. That's what happens when you get overwhelmed. I can't do this. To like, I can do this, but you got to have it down in chunks that is digestible and that you can understand and you can do something with that knowledge. Because that's when I say knowledge is powerful, knowledge is only powerful when you're able to stack that knowledge. And like, how do you get to the next step? And so I work with people. We have fun. Sometimes it's a little, when, somebody's like, I just don't know about this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I'm always thinking, when we're having one of those conversations, I'm always thinking, did you just see your parents or your, in-laws or, whatever? And they're going like, how do you know that? And Dr. Pat, because I go, people get derailed from people who are close to us. I mean, so many times I hear like women say, my husband needs this more than I do. My kids need this more than I do. My parents need this more than I do. Then they will say, other things like, well, I asked my girlfriend a year ago if she had, bloating and, it's just like, and I just started not sleeping very well and I can't figure out how to get that handled. And, my girlfriend, she said like, oh, I had that too. It goes away. You get it at that age. I don't think that's acceptable. To think that whatever is happening in our health, and any physician who says to you, well, you're getting older, makes the hair on the back of my neck stand straight up. And I think, why is that? Because you have people who are in their 90s, that are still doing yoga, who can hold their body weight up, in a sitting lotus position. So if it's that person can do it, you can do it too. And you just, you've got to sit with that, mind, body, soul, socially, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You got to glue it all together so you're the strongest that you possibly can be moving forward from any moment in your life, because crap always happens. So if crap happens, you got to go back to basics.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
This is fun.
Thank you, Dr. Pat. So a couple questions. Thank you again for joining. And for our audience and subscribers, thank you. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do click on the subscribe, click on the little alarm button as well so you get notified about these videos. Dr. Pat, people are going to want to know how to get in touch with you. Can they schedule time with you? How do they do that?
Well, there's a lot of different ways that they can do that. You can visit my website, which is healthteamnetwork.com. We met through LinkedIn. I have a significant presence in LinkedIn. It's a good way to connect with me there. Profile or my company page. Oh, someone's talking. They agree. And I have a Facebook page, business page. If you put it in the show notes, then everything's pretty concise in there. And also I have an Instagram account, but I primarily focus on, for social media, I primarily focus in LinkedIn.
Okay.
And then, buying the book, you can get it at Amazon. And there's in the appendix, on the appendix 2 page is all my contact, my email, my webpage. And on my webpage has a very, very cool thing. And I'd love your audience to try to do this. Okay. So on my webpage, when you go to Health Team Network and you scroll down, right now it's down, it's going to be moving up, is a microphone. So you can ask me anything that you want, just say like, hey, I was reading your book and, it's just like, what kind of doctor should I find if I want to find a doctor like you and I physically want to go see them? Because I coach people, I help, doctors have their patients be to have better lifestyle choices and help them get there. That's one of the things that I do besides having private clients. And I also teach the course Stronger Than Medicine. But,
Wow.
But we can, connect in that fashion.
Yeah.
And so the microphone, you click on it, and you dictate your question, and then it comes to me by email, and I have the ability to answer you straight back. And I'll be collecting those because I'll be doing some short videos from, questions that people give me, or, comments and that type of thing. Like, hey, can you talk about sleep a little bit more? Or can you talk about positive mental attitude? Or what about this like structure function thing? And how's it related to posture? Those are things that, that I can address either with you, and get back with you, or else I can do that by doing like a little video type thing. But it's a very cool feature.
It's awesome.
That it's fun. So come visit me.
I definitely, I'm going to.
And I love me helping people, have the opportunity to see where that weakest link is, and like, hey, let's stack this so the odds are in your favor as opposed to being against your favor.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. All right, we will wrap up now. Thank you again for joining. Thank you everybody for watching, listening. And Dr. Pat, I definitely want to have you back so we can talk more and learn more and just share good experiences. So thank you.
Good.
Appreciate it.
I'm great. I'm in. I never say no to a great invitation. Never.
I appreciate it, Dr. Pat.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you. Have
Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.